All right, being 6 o'clock, I'm going to call the Coos Bay City Council meeting to order. Would you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? It's good to have you here. First item on the agenda is public comments. This would be the time to come forth and make a public comment, preferably something that's not on the agenda, but if you want to go ahead and make that comment now, we just would not allow that comment until we got to that item. And I already know that Jay Farr wants to come and talk about Lake Egyptian, it looks like. Jay, you want to come up? Yeah, please. Just give your name and what city you reside in, please, for the record. And it's 3 minutes, and we have the timekeeper, Nate, is...
Actually, we have a new timer here.
Oh, wow.
Oh, there it
Well,
is.
I am Jay Farr,
All right.
and I reside in the city of Coos Bay. I've also involved in the Coos County Community Concert Association, and that's how I've come to know a little bit more about the Egyptian theater and its problems with water. You've all seen the lake that formed there this last week, and it periodically shows up on rainy southwest wind and high tide problems. I have given the councilors a copy of this beautifully drawn descriptive piece about how the layout is in front of the Egyptian. The grating on the left-hand side of that shows a sump pump and tubing to go past the hydrant on Broadway. The hydrant is a high spot, and so if water gets beyond that, it drains to the south end of the block, and there's never been a lake that I've experienced or seen appear there. So the drains that go to the bay are different for the two gratings that I have here, the two sumps that I show here on this picture. So this is a problem I think could be solved with temporary hosing and pumps to get the water past the hydrant where gravity takes over and that lake would disappear. Inside the theater, we have water problems as well. The back wall, I think you're aware, has some major water issues. The other day, it was virtually raining inside the theater, which can't be good for anything associated with it. So I bring those two items as I think the council needs to decide to do something about them before we lose this jewel of a theater that we all have enjoyed and is really the center of our community. My 3 minutes is about up, so.
Well, two questions, so this will extend it a little bit. But the back wall, I know, sorry. The back wall, we went ahead and have done some work on that, Jim, I believe, to quite a bit of money. So I don't know what's lacking on that back wall.
Yeah, it's structurally sound, but the water still finds its way through. And so we do have a local contractor did come to us with a cost estimate to repair the west wall to keep it from leaking. That was over $400,000.
So didn't we put quite a bit into it already?
Yes.
How much? And I thought it was supposed to take care of it.
I can't, I don't recall the value of the work that was done.
Okay. And then we put in, there's been a new roof put on also, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So that funding, I don't know. I guess it's something for the council to decide if that's what they want to try to do.
If I could make a suggestion,
Sure.
basically, I would look at that back wall as a roof that's vertical. It's not that large an area. I would think that a roofer could seal that back wall for a lot less than what Jim came up with from the quote that you have from earlier this year, I guess.
So is that something that the Egyptian Theater is willing to take on and research and get a bid and go through that process and maybe bring something back to Jim and see if we can facilitate this?
Well, I'm not the Egyptian Theater. Jill is. Yeah.
But you're here representing the Egyptian Theater.
Well, I'm here as a concerned citizen who uses the Egyptian Theater for our concerts.
Sure.
Community concerts.
We can certainly check into a bid on it.
Well, I mean, I would recommend it. We have something at 400,000, so I think the next step, since Jay has some interest and knowledge in this, if he could get somebody, maybe come back with a suggestion.
We had some people take a look at it, and nobody's willing to touch our back wall. And so I'm not sure what the sealant is that Jay is looking at.
Okay. So you can see the dilemma that we're in then.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've already contacted people and they're not willing to look at it, and we got a bid for 400,000, so we're in a spot here. I mean, I definitely want to save it, and we put a lot of money into it, and we went to the point of even purchasing it years ago with Mayor Verger was involved to make it available to the community, so that and get it to where it's at. So it's not something that we take lightly by any means, and don't want to do something for it. So, as far as this. You're suggesting we put a pump now down, am I understanding you correctly?
Well, we had 2 pumps running on
The street, though.
Friday, Saturday.
What day is this?
This is Tuesday. So this last
Sunday,
weekend, we had
Right.
2 pumps, and they were lowering the level of the lake.
So you had the pumps in the street?
And those pumps were in the street, just next to the sidewalk, with tubing going south, just past the hydrant. And that was solving the lake problem.
So you're suggesting that we have that there permanently?
I'm suggesting whatever, that we do something about it, but I would suggest that we could put one of the pumps in the sump just at the edge of the Egyptian on the north end, and temporarily roll out hose when we have weather events to run the water down past the hydrant so that gravity takes care of it.
So when you say we, are you talking the city or are you talking the Egyptian Theater?
I'm talking about Jay Farr at this point. but-
Okay. So, and I understand you talked to Jim also, correct?
Yes.
And Jim, what the discussion?
Well, one of the things that we run into is transferring the problem to the next watershed, which is on the other side of that hydrant. So,
I mean, we're transferring it down to the Coney station? Is that what we're doing?
that's right now. Is there as much water standing there? I'm not sure.
There's never been standing water that I have observed there.
Okay. Well, I mean, I know the Coney station's had problems with the water, but I don't know, I haven't seen, it's nothing like the Egyptian runs into by any means.
No.
So is this something that we want to address and,
Well, we can certainly explore the idea.
okay. So as long as we're not going to be impacting other businesses, what you're
Right.
saying, or property owner, right?
Right.
Okay.
If we got standing water, is there something with the stormwater system maybe?
Well, it's an old
Sorry.
system. It's a bathtub. We're kind of in a bathtub there.
Yeah,
We've got sea level is higher
yeah,
than the street, and then it's at the edge of a watershed that flows to the north to Central Avenue and then out to the bay. And it's very flat, so the water doesn't flow very quickly. And it may not be sized appropriately to carry the water during an extensive rains.
And also the tide gates close when the bay raises,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And that's a big part of the problem.
Big part of the problem.
So we run, I mean, yeah, it is an issue. So, I guess the answer is, as long as it's not going to impact others, I think it's something we're willing to consider. Am I stating this correctly?
We'll certainly explore the idea.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't suggest causing someone else a problem.
I understand, Jay. But no, I appreciate your willingness to come forth and give an idea and a suggestion and help. I really do. So, and if you can come up with an idea of that back wall, I sure would like that.
Yeah, as an alternative to a pumping situation, I think that if you cut slots in the street right next to the sidewalk for about 10 feet around that hydrant, that may very well take care of Lake Egyptian Theater without any electricity involved.
Okay. All right.
So that would be another alternative, just to get over the hump, to get through the hump,
Right.
so that it goes south.
Well, I appreciate it, Jay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I think I
All
have
right.
a little bit of a comment on that.
Yeah, go ahead, Carmen.
You know, there's been some water issues in downtown in general.
Right.
And I think that just this particular spot, while it is a bad spot, there's also another one down by,
Umpqua Bank?
yeah, Umpqua Bank, and it's more frequent there. I had a discussion with Jennifer real quick, and talking about this Egyptian theater issue, and I wonder if it just warrants a more robust discussion about stormwater infrastructure for downtown. Potentially an additional pump station, something along those lines. I don't know what that would be, but it's not, this is just not the only problem.
No, it's not.
And I could see this being something that the city might be able to receive grants for through, climate change mitigation, funding. We're gonna have this issue, it's only gonna get worse. So I would like to see us address it on a much larger, holistic scale, as opposed to just reactionary to each individual building.
Sure.
So,
So is that something we
I don't know
can
where
look
I would do
into
that.
and see about trying to find an alternative
Sure,
for the
we have some plans that we've examined. I
Okay.
think we did it 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. And it was just, again, cost.
But, I mean, it's a
But-
possibility, as Carmen said, that there might be some grants out there this time of,
Might be.
that
Yeah.
things have changed, and,
We have.
yeah.
I'd love to see us maybe, I mean, if it requires us throwing some money at something, like even hiring a grant writing professional to help us out. I mean, I wouldn't want to put more on the department heads to write more grants for something that we're just kind of coming up and throwing at them. But I think this is a pretty big issue in general. My business is down the street from the Egyptian, and we struggle with water inundation issues as well. Slow drainage, various things. So I know that the Egyptian and myself are not the only businesses dealing
Right.
with this. So.
Okay. Thank you, both of you. Look forward to seeing what we can resolve and get done. So Ken Faulkner signed the public comment roster. Ken, you want to make a comment?
I just wanted to thank everyone, the doctors, the nurses, the hospitals, the clinics, the police department, the fire department, and I also want to say Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to everyone, and thank all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate those comments. Dave, on the list? Yes. Gonzalez? Yes, Gonzalez, thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you all. My name is Dave Gonzalez, and I'm actually representing SHN, 275 Market Street here in town.
So, let me, before you start.
Yep.
We're going to bring this up later on, and you're more than welcome to discuss it at the topic, or you can talk now.
I wasn't sure which way you preferred to
Your
do
choice.
this.
It's however you wish to do it. I mean, we will have discussion at that topic.
Okay, so thank you, and I guess I'm just available for that topic if
No.
there's any questions or anything like that related to that topic. And I communicated with the city staff, and it sounds like what I communicated ahead of time you all have received. So I'm here for that item if there's any questions or anything like that related to that item.
Yeah, what we'll do, Dave, is that when we get to there, I'll have a brief, our staff make some comment, and then we'll take some public comment, and then we'll go from there.
Perfect.
All right,
Thank you all.
thank you. Okay, anyone else for public comments at this time? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Council, we have the consent calendar before us. How would you like to proceed?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar as submitted. Are there any comments or questions about any of those items? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Also, presentation, Jim, you're going to handle this? Oh, there you are. You're already up there. So we have an individual citizen that has worked in the public work for time, and we're going to honor him because John has decided that it's time for him to leave. I don't know why, but he has. So anyway.
Yeah, this is a good time for John, not so good for me. But I want to introduce John Eck. He's our Transportation and Facilities Assistant Superintendent. He's worked for the city for the last 12 and a half years. He started as an employee of the city of Coos Bay in June of 2011. He came to the city with many years of experience in the private sector here in Coos Bay, and plus time as a city councilor. I believe he was first elected in 2002. John's practical experience and lifetime residency in Coos Bay was indispensable to me and to our staff. In his 12 and a half years of service as an employee, John dedicated himself to serving the citizens of this community. I could always count on John to be here any time of the day, any day of the week. In fact, he just shared that this weekend he was on his way to do some duck hunting and got called in because of the weather issues, and he gave up his duck hunting to take care of things. So, as usual, we wish John and his wife Tina our best as they take on life of retirees. And it's a great honor to honor and thank John tonight.
So it's my honor to go ahead and give John a plaque. As it says, John Eck, for your service to the city of Coos Bay from June 1st, 2011 to December 28, 2023. The hard work and dedication doesn't even begin to say what you've done. As Jim has mentioned, you're always available. You have demonstrated during your time with the city of Coos Bay and is greatly appreciated and recognized. We hope that the next chapter of your life is full of great things and continuing accomplishment. I know that Tina has this burden with you as much as you have. And I also want to mention that I had the pleasure of serving with John Eck on the city council for 9 years. And, after you step down from this position, now this is always available to you, right? Something to think about.
I think I've been around.
You have long, okay. And on top of that, if that's not enough, John also was 40 years as a volunteer firefighter. So he has really given a lot to this city in many ways. And so, John, thank you so much for everything you've done. Thank you. Good luck to you. Just one of the many wonderful staff that we have here, and it's always nice to recognize the things that they have done for us. So the next item on the agenda is presentation of a proclamation supporting Zonta, says to no gender-based violence. Awesome group, and I understand that they're going to read the proclamation. I see many of them sitting here with us, and so.
Yes, so as a Zonta member, I get
Oh.
the great privilege of reading this proclamation for you.
Okay.
Thank you all for being here to support me reading it. So here we go. Whereas the Zonta Club of Coos Bay area, having been in continuous existence since 1953, is a member of Zonta International, District 8, and recognizes the crime of violence against women and girls, continues to be the most pervasive human rights violation and global epidemic, and is due to systemic use of physical, emotional, verbal, sexual, psychological, and economic control and/or abuse, and does not know any national nor cultural barriers affecting millions of women and girls of all races and socioeconomic backgrounds in peacetime and conflict, and violates an individual's privacy, dignity, security, and humanity, and results in serious short-term and long-term physical, sexual, reproductive, and mental health problems. And whereas the World Health Organization estimates 1 in 3, or 30% of all women worldwide, have experienced physical and/or sexual violence, and whereas, according to UNICEF, around 120 million girls under the age of 20 worldwide, that's about 1 in 10, have experienced forced intercourse or other forced sexual acts, and whereas more than 650 million women alive today were married as children, and 12 million girls are married before the age of 18 each year. And whereas, according to the Global Report on Trafficking in Persons by the United States or United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, the most common form of human trafficking, 79%, is sexual exploitation. And whereas Zonta International is a leading global organization of professionals with more than 26,000 members in 63 countries, working together to make gender equality a worldwide reality for women and girls, and has contributed to help achieve a world free of violence against women and girls for more than 100 years. And whereas during the 16 days of activism, which is November 25th through December 10th, the Zonta Club of the Coos Bay area, along with all Zonta clubs, is encouraged to take part in the Zonta Says No to Violence Against Women campaign, and to take local, national, and international actions to influence the making and implementation of laws, as well as changing gender-based attitudes and behaviors to end violence against women.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Joe Benetti, Mayor of the City of Coos Bay, do hereby acknowledge and proclaim December 10th, 2023 as Zonta Says No to Violence Against Women in Coos Bay, and encourage all residents to join with Zonta to prevent gender-based violence by educating themselves and the community on its harm, advocating for survivors of gender-based violence, and acting in service on their behalf. So with that, Council, can I have a motion and a second to adopt this proclamation?
I move to approve the proclamation in support of Zonta International and announcing December 10th, 2023 as Zonta Says No to Violence Against Women's Day.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the proclamation supporting Zonta Says No to Gender-Based Violence. Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Hearing none, it passes. Thank you so much. Wonderful organization. It's great to have you here, and so thank you so much. Appreciate it. Absolutely. We never pass up a photo op. Sure. Why not? We take a little bit of a break here. So do you want us down below or up here, or how do you want this? You guys call it. It's your shot.
Here.
Here?
Let's get together, so we'll have 2 layers. Oh, how are we gonna do that? I don't know.
You want the signs in front?
You guys might wanna have the signs in front. Maybe we will. Get cozy.
Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you.
You bet. Thanks.
You put in that safety rail just for me, and now I never sit at it.
I think we have one of the biggest Zonta clubs in the nation, actually.
What's that?
One of the biggest Zonta clubs in the nation. Yeah, pretty cool.
All right, so we have a public hearing to consider enactment of ordinance to amend Coos Bay Municipal Code 2-30 regarding the Parks Commission. Oh, we're taking, nope, that's it. So who's going to give us the update before we open the public hearing?
I was going to share just kind of a background on why we're here today and what we're
Perfect.
presenting to you. So following direction of City Council, the Parks Commission discussed an interest and a necessity to handle bicycle and pedestrian-related activity within the city of Coos Bay, and then also those action items that would potentially come before council. This falls kind of within their duties, as we found out in review of the code. It is maybe a little bit stretched from what they're used to, but it does fit within there. So at their last meeting in November, they took action to accept that responsibility and to begin hearing bicycle and pedestrian related topics and provide those recommendations to City Council. So what we have presented for you is just some code amendments to clearly kind of address what these duties are, as well as kind of add some changes to the composition of the Parks Commission, which would provide for us to potentially bring in some additional members and or clearly identify some the composition to include folks who have bicycle experience or are enthusiasts, or just can bring some greater clarity to the table regarding that topic. So we have presented to you some changes to Chapter 2.30.030, which is the functions, powers, and duties of the Commission. And then that will also, we're recommending to increase the Commission to group of 9.
All right, before I open the public hearing, is there any comments or questions by the council? Okay, hearing none, I'll open the public.
I did. Just for clarification, we're adding, yeah, I thought it was on. We're just adding one position. This is already an 8-member.
This is already an 8-member, and so just that topic is kind of a nice conversation piece, because with an 8-member commission, how do you handle a tie? So adding that 9th member kind of helps that, you get kind of majority there, but it also will help us with that composition, so.
Okay, and then my second question is, I'm looking at the composition where we have subject matter expertise outlined. We are adding the language E to bicycle or pedestrian enthusiast with subject matter expertise, but that also could impact traffic and parking if we're talking about some of the areas that have been proposed. So do we want to add that language as well?
So, I mean, if Jim wants to speak in here, but I think the intention here is to discuss the topic at the Parks Commission level, and then recommendations would then come to City Council. And at our level, what you see here, there often is some engineering kind of elements that are added to those conversations that you guys see. So, I mean, it's an option you could look at, but I think we cover that by bringing in those professional engineers to help us with that transportation side of things.
I just want to make sure that somewhere along the line there is a look at that as well, because we are talking about broadening that and expanding that well out into the proposed route was from 101 to Mingus Park, so that's a pretty significant area that could be impacted, and I am concerned that this, I'm concerned and I'm excited at the same time, I should say, because, I know that we're trying to move in a multimodal direction, but I also am concerned that we look at all aspects of that, and I don't want too much time, because we have a lot of land in parks that I just think we need to be cautious of that.
Yeah, I think
So-
that's fair. It's
We had,
important balance.
so for everyone, we had some discussion about this, and it came down to, do we form another committee? Some of us felt that we have too many committees as it is, and we'll also put a burden on some of the staff to handle it, because staff is tied to every committee that we do have. And so it was decided to put it on Parks Commission. Carmen Matthews sits on that committee. And also, it was discussed that if I'm correct, that if they needed to or felt necessary, they could put a subcommittee together, or if they needed another consultant who already came in and made a presentation on this, and we felt that it wasn't complete, at least I didn't, and there's some other things need to be addressed to handle this. But as Councilor Kilmer stated, this is going to impact our roads. And it's something else that is coming up. We had a Front Street blueprint Front Street plan that Heidi Suss was also sitting on, and myself, and bike transportation was also considered there. So, and we're doing this in Empire. We're going to have another plan out there, and this is going to be considered. So it's not something that is just going to be a one-time thing. It's going to be affecting the city in multiple ways. And so I feel this is a start, maybe not the fix-all, but at least that's my feeling at this time. Okay, I said enough. Anyone else?
Me too.
But at least we set up the preface for this. So now we're going to open the public hearing. Are there any comments by any of the public on this topic? No? All right. We'll close the public hearing. And council, any other comments or questions for the staff?
I'd just chime in on the traffic layout. You know, when it comes to the way the Parks Commission really approaches these things, we, you know, focus on master planning and, you know, conceptual ideas for design elements within parks and now within bikeways, but it would always come down to some kind of engineering expertise. So, you know, I think that your concerns will be handled on a staff level, and we're more just maybe making recommendations to this body to, you know, say yes or no based on engineering designs. So, you know, bringing bicycle enthusiasts or people who use the either current bike lanes or non-existent bike lanes that are in this community, I think would probably satisfy the target goal for what we're trying to achieve here. We had a pretty robust discussion at the last Parks meeting about this, and everybody on the commission currently is excited to, you know, be involved in that conversation in general, because bicycle connectivity to the parks is a goal of the commission's. So I think everything looks really good here. So that's my only comments.
I'll just throw in there, I'm curious to see where it goes. I mean, I'm concerned about the parking downtown too, but we had somebody come up at a meeting a bit ago telling us about the option to just put in some markers for one of the lanes to let folks know bicycles can go down it. I mean, I knew folks can ride there already legally, but I didn't know that's a thing that's out there in the ether. Like I said, I haven't been on a bicycle probably since I was 18, and safety was not my primary concern. So, yeah, I think it'll be helpful to have somebody on here that's got that perspective. I wouldn't necessarily support something that took away parking, but there's going to be things in there that I just don't know exist.
But I also think there's other ways to get there, other traffic patterns that we can do. They're not going to impact that. And I don't think those were thought about, and I think they can be. Another one that sits on the Parks Commission is Jamie Faraday, and he's also an enthusiast bicyclist. I see him out all the time riding, so I think he can bring some knowledge to this also. All right, so how would you like to proceed, Council?
And I appreciate Carmen's comment, because I was curious how that conversation went at the commission. I mean, obviously, the consensus was to come to the council with this recommendation, so I appreciate that there was enthusiasm.
Yeah, you know, no one really balked at the task to, you know, bring this on, and so that was good. I kind of felt like I threw everybody under the bus a little bit, because it's like, oh, we'll take it, speaking for everybody, and everybody was like, yeah, no, that makes sense. We should focus on it. So that's good.
Okay, Council, how would you like to proceed?
I'll move that we enact an ordinance amending Coos Bay Municipal Code, Chapter 2, Parks Commission.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to enact an ordinance amending Coos Bay Municipal Code, Chapter 2, Parks Commission. Christine, would you do a roll call, please?
An ordinance amending ordinance 450, 364, 213, and 56 regarding the composition and procedures of the Parks Commission and amending Coos Bay Municipal Code, Chapter 2.30. Counselor Farmer?
Aye.
Counselor Kilmer,
Aye.
Counselor Matthews,
Aye.
Counselor Stevens,
Aye.
and Mayor Benetti.
Aye. So from, go ahead. I apologize.
Ordinance 570 has been duly enacted.
Thank you. So 5C is going to be removed from the agenda. I should have mentioned that earlier. There are going to be a little bit more investigation and reaching out to try to contact Bill Otten. Anyway, anything else you want to add? No?
I think that covers it.
Okay. So the next item is consideration to award a contract for a special inspector for wastewater treatment plant 1, Phase 1 improvement project. And Jennifer, you want to give us a little bit of a overall
Sure.
scenario? Sure.
Okay, so the Plant 1 Phase 1 construction project is underway. It's anticipated to be completed fall of 2025. So due to the structural nature of the work, the state of Oregon requires a third-party inspector. So we need special inspections and observations for construction materials, installation, fabrication, placement of components and connections, and to ensure compliance with the Oregon Structural Specialty Code. So staff advertised for proposals for a special inspector for the Plant 1 project. So with that advertisement, we included the contractor's schedule, we included the special inspection schedule from the plans, we also include the specifications that outline the special inspections. So in total, 4 proposals were received on November 28th. The low proposal was from Western Testing, LLC, for $130,328. The engineer's estimate for this effort was $115,000, and staff is recommending a 15% contingency. So just some quick bookkeeping. I've been keeping you updated on the overall budget for this project. It's anticipated that the project will cost $24 million, total design, environmental, special inspections, construction. It's a loan from the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality through the State Revolving Fund Program. If we don't incur the total $24 million, then we only pay back what's incurred. So in your staff report are those costs if you have any questions. Also, Dave Gonzalez is here from SHN, as well as representatives from Western Testing, should you have any questions.
So this is something that we have been moving forward in stages to get to this point.
Correct.
And so we know this is becoming about, and it's going to be a total of, we anticipate 24 million, but we're hoping less. And we'll see where it goes from that. So you went out for this position and advertised, as you stated, and you got 4 bids back, am I correct?
Correct.
And those bids, do you want to read the bids?
I can
Sure.
give you the, so Western Testing LLC was $130,328. Earth Engineers, Inc. was $150,300. Columbia West Engineering was $198,887.50. And SHN was $211,803. $211,803.83. And I believe there might have been a small adding error in that, so it might be a different if you look at the proposal.
Okay, all right. Any questions, council? I'm going to open up public comments on this one, so. All right, thanks, Jennifer. We'll call you back. So Dave from SHN came up earlier during public comments and obviously had a comment about this item. And so if there's anyone else also that'd like to make a public comment during this time, this would be it. So Dave, you want to make a comment about this? Sure.
Yep, thank you. So with the 3 minutes, I submitted comments in advance to the city, and if y'all receive those, then I won't go through and read my comments. If it was kind of I sent it today.
Yeah, so I would go ahead and read it.
Okay.
If we need to give you a little bit more time, we will.
Okay, thank you. So I'm David Gonzalez, and I represent SHN, 275 Market Street in Coos Bay. We responded to the RFP for the Coos Bay wastewater treatment plant project, special inspection services, and a summary of our estimated costs for materials testing and special inspection services was provided in agenda item 5D. And so I'm attending tonight to answer any questions that anyone has from the council regarding the proposal that we provided. There were some questions that I had asked earlier in the submitted comments, and actually I was contacted by your city engineer today who provided a lot of clarification on some of those items. And so some of the things I talked about were scope and fee and project experience qualifications. Those were the minimum requirements that we provided, and city staff actually gave us some guidance in where you had provided in the agenda the proposals from the different firms that were bidding on the project. So thank you to city staff for that. One of the things that's a little bit tricky in the type of services that we do is it's on-call services. And so we provide services when you call and not so much based on our control of the scope. And so that was kind of a big question that I had asked. But again, I was provided some clarification from your city engineer earlier when she contacted me. So my comments here are a little bit, I'm trying to kind of shoot from the hip based on some of the guidance that she provided me. But I want to say that the Coos Bay wastewater treatment plant, SHN was able to work on the initial phase that happened a couple of years back, and we're really excited to work on that. We are thankful for what the city's doing in our community right now, and thankful for the opportunity to look at providing services for this bid again. If you have any questions, let me know.
Well, one of the questions I have is, obviously you're here, so are you, and you had some questions for the staff. So do you have any, is there anything that shows that these individuals and these other firms aren't qualified to do this job that they submitted?
I would say based on what was provided, the four firms that submitted on the project appear to meet the criteria that you provided in the RFP. Yes, you're correct.
All right.
Yeah.
I guess that's my only question. I didn't know if that's what you're up here, because obviously you inquired with the staff and they came back and gave you the appropriate answers, or at least satisfied you. And so I just want to make sure that you're confident that they're all qualified to do this.
Yes, I had a very good conversation today with your city engineer.
Okay.
So.
And as far as I'm concerned, SHN has done a lot of work for us throughout the years, and we've been very pleased. But also we have certain criteria that we need to follow, and I think you need to be aware of that. Nate, you want to weigh in here and explain the process of when we get these kind of bids and where we're at?
Since we're talking about engineering, we don't necessarily have to take the lowest bid, but, you're looking for a qualified person with the low bid, and that's what we have in this particular case. And as far as my understanding is, there's no irregularities in terms of the bidding process from any of the people who proposed it. And now it's before you to award the contract.
Right. And I can tell you, Dave, preferably that, there would always be a local person or company doing this. We try to see that happen. I mean, we can't control it, but it happens a lot of the time, and we're fortunate that we're able to do that. But in this case, I'm just going to explain, if we put the 15% on, we're looking at almost $100,000 in difference between your company and the low bidder. So you have to understand the position that we're in, so anyway.
Understood.
All right. Anyone, any other questions?
No. Oh.
I did actually have a question, because there was such a wide, not necessarily for a particular firm, but maybe Jennifer, to address the wide separation between the lowest bid and the highest bid, and where the engineer's estimate was.
Oh.
Sorry, Dave. Please. I had a feeling you'd be asking me that question. So the engineer's estimate, it is so hard in this bidding climate these days, really. I'm not trying to make excuses for the engineer, but I honestly didn't think he was very far off from Western Testing's proposal. But from that low end, I think you had two bids there within a percentage, and then you had the high end. I know this is probably a great answer, but I do feel it was in conformance. Western Testing was in conformance with the engineer's estimate.
So are you familiar with the low bidder? And are you comfortable if they were selected?
So I actually made some phone calls because they have worked with engineers that we do work with regularly, and I received positive feedback.
Okay. Any other questions for Jennifer, anyone? Are there any other public comments by anyone? Yes, come on up, please. Thank you, Dave.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tim Swenson. This is Kim Swenson. We're the co-owners of Western Testing. Each of us own almost half. Kim owns 51%. We're both former Marines, 100% veteran-owned. We're based in Roseburg. Our staff currently is 48% veteran. We work every day to try to backfill with more as they come out. I appreciate the concerns, both of the staff members here, council members, and Mr. Gonzalez, honestly. I sit on the Roseburg Public Works Commission. When I see a disproportionately low bid come through, believe me, I have exactly the same comments, same thoughts. I think the questions are valid, honestly. Our qualifications are here. They're written out for you. You can go through them ad nauseum. There's no reason for me to address that and honestly take my time. What I will tell you is bidding these sorts of projects, and we've been involved in several water treatment plants and wastewater treatment plants around the region. Bidding these projects are difficult. Jennifer correctly identified that. You have very few tools at your disposal besides your experience and honestly the contractor schedule, because once again, like Mr. Gonzalez pointed out, we are 100% reactive. If the contractor calls us out, we are to respond. That is our duty. We'll be there as long as the contractor needs us to perform that inspection. And when that inspection is done, if he fails that inspection, or she fails that inspection, as the case may be, we have to come back. Now, there's the onus. Who pays for that? Well, in this case, it should not be the city. It should be a scope fee, a change order to the contractor for failing that inspection. It's generally how all of these proposals are written. How your specs came out, the contractor has the responsibility for rework, and they shall pay for the rework. So next, how do we factor in how many days we're going to be on site? Well, we have a schedule. Contractor provided us the schedule. This is so small. I'm so sorry. When I bid the project, actually, I had our engineering staff make a full-size copy, which was about the size of the Coos Bay sign. Then you can read it. That provides 4 days. For instance, how many days will it take us for piles? Contractor said, this is how many days it's going to be. How many days is it going to be for concrete pours? How many days will it be for reinforcing bar inspections? So on and so forth. So you seal yourself up inside your little office and you start crunching numbers, and you emerge like a groundhog 3 or 4 days later. Sometimes more. That's how you come up with these numbers. Am I certain and comfortable my numbers are correct? Yes, 8 years of doing this tells me that it is. Our staffing, all of our staffing is based in Roseburg, all of it. Oftentimes you should remember that you may have an office that has a location in a certain town, but yet they're sharing staff across the region, and that staff comes from different locations. Our staff will be here every day, any day you need us. Currently, we're assisting Roseburg Forest Products in Coquille. I have someone in this area every day, oftentimes several people.
Did you want to add to it?
I just really wanted to, oh, if that,
So sorry, if anyone would like to see the construction schedule, that you can read.
Magnifying glass.
I just wanted to reinforce what Tim did, that, you know, our address says Roseburg, which, you know, a lot of people are going to say isn't local. Well, yeah, we are. We're here all the time. We have a business license here. Our staff is 100% based in Douglas County. We work here, though, and we play here, and we have, I would say, nearly as much of a vested interest in what happens in Coos Bay as people that live here, because we are so close. The work that benefits Douglas County also benefits Coos County. That's a reciprocal relationship, I think. So really, that was all that I had. Thank you.
So one comment that Dave made was on call, that, you know, because they're local. So you stated that you always have somebody here. So there's going to be somebody on call that we can reach out to if necessary? Is that
We
what
were
you
on call
stated?
tonight.
Okay.
We found out about this meeting at what,
3:23,
Okay.
sir.
All right.
We
Just to be
took the
exact.
dog home, got in the car, and here we are. So, yeah, we're on call. All of us.
You could refer back to my schedule of values that was attached to our bid, you'll see there's differences in events and how many events for concrete pours, and there are oftentimes in that scope there are days. A day means I've got an inspector here, and I will have an inspector here all day long. So very much so, yeah, on call. We asked for 24 hours notice. We typically get much, much less than that. We're only an hour and a half away, I mean, truthfully. And like I said, Coquille's 15, 20 minutes from here at a leisurely pace. We have someone stationed there every single day with Roseburg Forest Products. So, and we're fortunate enough to have that happening.
Okay. Questions, council?
And to say I always appreciate folks that show up when a bid process goes on, so appreciate y'all being here.
Thank you.
It's a fun date night in Coos Bay.
I wouldn't recommend the beach right now.
Okay, good to know.
All right, any other public comments? And just to add on to Councilor Farmer, I appreciate both of you showing up. It's really appreciated. So, okay, Council, how would you like to proceed?
And to find it again. Move that we award the contract for special inspections for the wastewater treatment plant 1, Phase 1 upgrade project to Western Testing LLC for an amount of $143,361, which includes a 15% contingency.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to award contract for special inspector for wastewater treatment plant 1 to Western Testing LLC. Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for showing up and your comments. Okay, next item on the agenda is consideration to award, no, I did that. Discussion of permit fees for temporary certificate of occupancy. Jim,
Thank you.
going to give us some background?
I'll give you some background. Mayor Benetti has requested this item be placed on the council agenda for discussion. The mayor has had discussions with citizens about the temporary certificate of occupancy, or TCO, and its cost. Some background. Per the Oregon Structural Specialty Code, the building official must issue a certificate of occupancy prior to occupancy of a building. The code does allow for the building official to issue a temporary certificate of occupancy in certain circumstances. And section 111.3 of the Oregon Structural Specialty Code says temporary occupancy. The building official is authorized to issue a temporary certificate of occupancy before the completion of an entire work covered by the permit, provided that such portion or portions shall be occupied safely. The building official shall set a time period during which the temporary certificate is valid. If a TCO isn't requested by the permit holder, then the project needs to be completed and a certificate, before the certificate of occupancy is granted. As some examples, the construction of a shell building followed by tenant improvements within that building can create challenges depending on how the developer times their construction. The shell building must be complete before certificate of occupancy is issued to any tenant. There are developers that will build the shell completely. They file their permit, and then a tenant comes in and builds out their space, receiving a certificate of occupancy when complete. There are other developers that build the shell and the tenant improvements concurrently. In multi-tenant buildings, this can become challenging when one tenant is completed or close and ready to occupy, but the building is not complete. This is when the city may issue a temporary certificate of occupancy for the completed tenant space while work continues on the rest of the building. The practice has been a fee to issue, I'm sorry, let me start that again. The practice has been a fee to issue a TCO for 30 days. The current fee is $275 plus 5% technology fee per month. There's a fair amount of staff time that goes into processing TCOs. Each division has to review the statutes, or the status of the project to determine what is done, what is not done, and identify safety issues. The information is then compiled and printed on the TCO. At the expiration of the TCO, the developer may request a renewal if the remaining work is still not complete. This process serves to encourage timely completion of the outstanding issues and minimize the time frame that unfinished buildings are occupied.
So as Jim stated, I requested this be put on as you and myself, we get out into the community a lot. And so we hear from different individuals on different items and topics. And this is one of them. I've had developers that I've talked to and construction individuals that have heartburn over this, is the best way to put it. And so, just for a little bit, I mean, there are some times, I agree with Jim, and maybe I don't understand all of it, that's why we're here. I've had discussions with Nicole a few times on this, and she's always come back with more information. But sometimes, I don't think there's a cost to the city that we're bearing. I'll give you an example that I know of, is where Starbucks and Mod Pizza was gonna go. Mod Pizza changed their mind, and that building sits empty because the developer's trying to find someone to occupy that. And so they haven't complete the build-out, but they're still paying $280 a month. They're not? Well, let's, okay, but let's, okay. Okay.
In this case, the shell building was final.
Okay.
And so it can now sit the Mod Pizza side empty. Starbucks has been issued a final certificate of occupancy because the shell was final.
Okay, come on up. So how about other instances, like Heidi Sauces? She paid $280 for each 3 places because they weren't finished, so she's paying $800 a month. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Because the 2 studios or apartments weren't complete.
Correct, because the building was not complete. She still had, so each tenant space wanted to occupy.
Correct.
Prior to the building being completed.
So, but she's moving forward on it, and because of contractors or maybe not getting product or whatever it may be, we are charging this person a fee because it's not complete. It's not that they're not moving forward on it because they're trying, they just aren't able to complete it because of circumstances, correct?
Correct. I just wanted to clarify your
Sure,
example that we were
understand.
not charging the Mod Pizza
Sure.
Starbucks example.
All right, but we were charging them at one point.
Yes, until
Correct.
they completed the shell.
So my point being is, I don't think, as I've had discussions with Nicole, that we want to make sure that this permit stays open, because if the permit does not stay open, then there can be a change of regulations, whatever might come about. So then the individual would have to, and correct me if I'm wrong, step in, if they don't keep this open, then, because they're under those ramifications to make sure it's completed. If it was closed and they had to open it again, if I understand correctly, then they might have to face something else, right?
That's correct.
So what I'm suggesting is, I'm not saying that we don't keep the permit open, because I think it's got some validity to make sure it happens. But I do question the amount. I mean, I think we can do something different in the amount. I don't know where 280 came from. As I told our city manager, when we were looking at the fees before us, we saw a list of different fees that were going to be charged. We didn't see dollars on every one of them. I was informed that we did go ahead and pass this, but there was not a fee attached to the temporary TCO on this one, I believe. I didn't see $280, or I wasn't aware of it. So therefore, I've asked the council to have this on the agenda. I do have a couple developers that have agreed to come forth. Some are not willing to come forth, but I do have 2 that want to explain their position and how they feel about this. I think if we could come up with, and I'll let them speak, but I suggest that we keep this, and maybe it's being recommended in here that the council get involved with staff to maybe see if we can work together to come to a resolve and make things better for everyone. Anyway, so Greg is virtual, and I have Heidi here. Would one of you like to go first? All right, Greg, you want to explain some of your feelings on this? Since I got an email from you saying, is this ever going to be resolved? So.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
All right. Yes, thank you for the opportunity. I will say I think the problem from my standpoint really is in multi-tenant buildings. I was the developer, I'm the developer of Coos Bay Village, and we have a number of buildings that have multiple tenants in each building. And we are constantly trying to lease up the buildings that have vacancies, get new tenants in there, and it does feel like this fee is counterproductive. You know, as a developer, I'm not in the business of building unoccupied buildings. I want all of the buildings to be occupied and produce amenities and benefits to the community. But if a vacant space in a multi-tenant building is vacant while we're trying to lease it and we get dinged monthly for fees, I don't really see the purpose in that. One example in particular is the building that has Harry Ritchie's and the Wild Roots Salon in it. It's a 3-tenant space building. The 2 end tenants are occupied. They've been operating for almost a year now. And the middle space, we do not have occupied yet. There is some, I believe, drywall and maybe some other kind of insulation between the 2 units that is not done yet. And because it is not done, the building is still getting a TCO. But for me to do that work to satisfy that would probably cost me $10,000 to $15,000. And as soon as I get a tenant in there, that tenant is going to want to rip all that out and do their own work or have it redone custom to their space. So why, as a developer, would I spend $10,000 to $15,000 to check a box to get a fee removed when it's just money that's going to have to be redone and respent in the redevelopment of that space? So it doesn't make a lot of sense. Again, I'm only speaking for, in my instances, in a multi-tenant building. The shell of the building is completely done, all the sidewalks are done, parking is done, and the 2 other tenants are operating. So I don't believe there's any life safety issue there. I understand the mechanics of a TCO. I think it serves a purpose. I think the concern is just the fee. You know, maybe as an in lieu, maybe there's some kind of monthly update where it could be reported to the city. Hey, here's the status, we're working on tenants, this is what's going on, just to show that there is some progress. But from my standpoint, it makes no sense as a developer to do work that just gonna have to be ripped out again.
Questions for Greg, anyone? All right, thanks, Greg. Heidi?
Hi, I'm council and everyone. I'm Heidi Sauce, and we have just almost finished the Date Street project. And I guess do I have 3 minutes? Okay. I guess if I was going to try to augment what Greg said and help the process for the city, I don't know how many more developments will be under this same situation that I was, but we took a completely empty building. It wasn't occupied, which I think is a criteria, because when I had my heartburn, I asked, what about Tioga? I was looking for other examples of, my God, what can it cost the Tioga? Because for sure that's not done. And I was told, well, they never gave up occupancy. I thought, well, that's a pretty good answer. And your Mod Pizza and Starbucks, that was a good example. And I was aware of Harry Ritchie and Plywood in Between and Greg's situation. But I agree with, in my situation, and moving forward to help anyone else that's going to develop, is a clear upfront explanation that if you're going to have multi-units and you're going to complete, which I asked before we embarked on this, We needed to have a firewall. It's a mixed-use development, so we have residents on one side and 4 commercial smaller units. So it's a six sections in the same building, same footprint. And I asked, before we even started, I said, can I stair-step this so I can start getting some income from the development? With the commercial, the first commercial unit, you get it rented, you get it done, and so forth. And I'm going to stall or put off for financial reasons and pace the project so I could get the commercial done, start having income, look nice on the west side of the building, and then take a breather and sort of start the residences. And I was told that was possible, but for safety reasons, you have to complete the firewall. That also made complete sense. So we got the firewall complete, we got A and B done, and they moved in, and then I went to the counter and they go, and I knew there was going to be a temporary occupancy, but I did not know when you guys said you didn't know there was a fee. Welcome to the club, because I get to the counter and they go, oh, there's going to be a fee. And I said, well, how much is that? And she goes, well, it's a couple $100. And I thought, okay. And but then it was going to be a couple $100 for each space every 30 days. And then there was when the actual bill came out, it was $288. And I go, what's the $88 for? And she goes, that's a technology fee. So it's this nibbling away at, and a surprise, and it doesn't sound like a lot of money relative to the whole project, but I did a rough estimate. In June and July, the first 2 people moved in, and that was $288 apiece. That happened again in August, because they're still going, and I'm working as fast as we can on the rest of the building. In September, the 3rd person moved in, so I'm paying $576 a month, every 30 days for 2 months, then $864 for 2 more months, and I worked so doggone hard. I know the city probably didn't want to see me coming in, but the 17th of November, I was going to get another bill for almost $1,000. So I ended up paying for the spaces that were occupied versus the spaces that weren't. When I had the firewall completed, which I thought was the deal, and our the shell was done for safety purposes, the roof, the foundation, windows, insulation, firewalls, walls, siding, access, all done. We had 2 bathroom fans, and we had hood fans, mechanical stuff that, I asked, what does that have to do with the safety, and why can't we stop the fees on the parts that are completely done? And Jim, you and your staff, it says, well, let me finish that thought. I paid $2,880 for that 4-month period, and I was 1 day short of paying $3,744. And thank God we got everything done. The city worked with us. On November 17th, we had all of our finals all at once. Land use was involved. Everybody had to come, as Jim was pointing out, that all the divisions have to review the status. I have a little bit of maybe a suggestion or a question. When we got our TCO for each individual commercial space, I believe that we were told, you're safe, you're done, you've qualified with all the statutory building code. You don't get the TCO unless you've gone through your business license and your fire safety and all of that, and then had a little bit of time to fix whatever they didn't like, so you're good to go. I don't know why, and maybe I could be educated on this, I don't know why each division has to review the status every 30 days, because they've already said those units are done. And we are paying, in our situation, they divided the building up, so it was more like 6, like if you were going to do 6 projects, they each had their entire list duplicated for each 6. But the ones that are done, I don't know what they're reviewing. No one came back to look at those 2 and then 3 places. We still have 1 commercial space empty. But in my observation, I don't think anything was done other than your 30 days is up, you owe us another $288. And Jim, the completion of outstanding issues, this is to encourage the timely completion. If you don't think that a developer is trying to hurry to the best of their ability, because it costs a ton of money every day they show up, and you can't get a return on your investment because you can't move anybody in. So, and I would think that maybe if you had an empty or vacant or ugly building that wasn't timely completed, maybe you could impose fines or something, but there's, I just question why, first of all, please tell developers up front, have a conversation with them. If you're going to have multi-units and you want to start one first, you know you're going to have $288 every 30 days until you get the whole thing done? Because that was probably the biggest, going forward, if the counter or when you take out a permit, if that scenario's going to happen, that would be good. I guess my last point is, I try to make affordable, and I hate that word because it's hard to deliver that right now, and this isn't helping. When I started, and I'll be completely honest, when I started this project, people would ask me, how much are your apartments going to be? And I didn't want to price them because I didn't know, and I'm really glad I didn't at the beginning, because in my mind, the number has gone up $300 a month to pay for not just this. I mean, the TCOs aren't the devil in the weeds, but it all adds up. And I just, I don't think that, the lady at the counter, and, God bless her soul, she's doing what she's supposed to, that's her job. I said, what's it for every 30 days? And she goes, to make sure you're making progress. So, how? They know that because the outstanding and open permits on the unfinished part, they're coming and they're checking, and those have their own fees, review fees and inspection fees that you pay. So it's almost like you're paying twice. So that's it. But I want to say that the city is, I get hairball projects, and they aren't cookie cutter stuff. They're tough, and the whole team worked really hard to facilitate it and try to help and explain, and made themselves very available. And I just think we can do better. So thanks.
Thanks. I think it's important to point out that this is not to beat up on staff or say they're not doing their job, because that is far from what I want to do here. I think we're trying to find a better way, and whatever that way is, needs to include the staff. I mean, we can't just, I don't know it well enough. Amy gets up here and explains certain situations, and Jim does, and Nicole does. But I think if we can sit down and maybe try to find a way to make things better, and if we can streamline them in some way, I mean, I think that's what we're here to serve and do. And so I think Heidi said it correctly. I know that things had been changed to help her accommodate these things. As I'm going to reiterate, I walk down Front Street all the time, so it's easy for me to run into Heidi and ask how it's going, and she will tell me. So, good and bad. But there's good also, and that's what I want to explain. That I know that, they went out of their way to make sure that they could accommodate and try to get things done in a fashion and help her get this closed out. So, I really want to preface that, and I think Greg will probably reiterate the same comment on that. I know Daniel, who was a project manager when Coos Bay Village was going, and I would walk down and I would ask him, how's it going, how were the inspections, and he always told me the staff was good to deal with. And so there's a lot of good things out there, but there's some things that I think that we can maybe address and try to make better. I hope I've clarified that. So in this report, Jim, I think that you state that...
Can I ask a question to make sure I'm tracking?
You bet.
Two things. One, just tracking the TCO aspect, and one to see about utility of it. I'm a little lost. You've got a building, you've got occupied units, you've got unoccupied units, and the individuals are having to pay money of a temporary certificate of occupancy for unoccupied spaces. Have I caught that?
Yes.
I think it might be you're paying to have temporary occupied in the occupied spaces. Is that correct?
I thought you were paying for the ones that were empty, and I was very confused.
No,
No,
the ones
so-
that are, no, the ones that are occupied, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in order to, let's say you have a business, you want to open up, the building isn't finished,
Yeah.
you want to start making, like, coming from an entrepreneur's
Yeah.
perspective, if I wanted to open my business, but the rest of the building wasn't finished, then there'd be an extra.
It does make more sense. I've only managed stuff
$288
that was
per month.
already built.
And I think I've personally gone through that myself.
The other one, for the utility and the ensuring folks are making forward progress, I was wondering if that was intended. Was that something that we were able to use when the owner of the American building was sitting on property in his building that was damaged, essentially not complete due to deterioration, but he also wasn't moving on making any improvements? Were we able to leverage this to impose fines against him to make him move?
No, that was, I'm sorry. That was because of the dangerous or substandard building code, not the structural specialty code.
Okay.
But to follow up on that, Jim, let me ask you this, so the upstairs, which you and I have both seen, I'm not sure who else has been through that, Nicole, it's atrocious, and I can tell you that it's not built out, and there's a lot of studs that are just there, and things aren't completed. So why doesn't this pertain to that? I mean, even you got the Sky Bar down below, now it's closed, and I know it was closed, I think, because of some, I'm not sure if it was closed because it didn't meet code, or there's some violations or something. So anyway, my question is, why didn't that apply to them in this case?
Do they have an active permit?
Yeah, they don't have an active permit.
Okay, so okay. But so you can have an unfinished building that's,
Well, when it was built, it met permit.
Right.
And the business, when the businesses occupied it, it met the code at the time.
all right.
So
I'm glad that Drew asked that question, and that it was clarified, because I was confused, and I can't wrap my head around charging a temporary occupancy for something that is functioning and basically completed. I'm struggling with that. What kind of work are we doing that they're having to pay this additional on top of?
If I can chuck in too, I see that Oregon structural
think-
specialty codes are noted. I'm wondering if that's why
Is
we
it-
have to do something, or?
Well, we have to issue a certificate of occupancy. The city does not have to issue a TCO, a temporary. That's, I guess, at our pleasure, or it's something that we can do, and that's something we elect to do. And there's a cost for doing that.
But I didn't realize it was every month, which can be a
Yeah.
compounding issue. The more, I think they've outlined it very
Yeah, and I think,
succinctly as to how difficult that can be. And they've also offered some ideas for how we could resolve that so it's not compounding the dollars that are hemorrhaging as they're trying to develop.
I'm wondering if we have the option around awarding it or not, do we also have the leeway to reduce how much staff time has to go into awarding it? Are we able to loosen criteria to reduce staff expenditure so that it's at least not so expensive or onerous? Or does the state preempt us on that
oh,
one?
no, the council has the authority to adjust the fees.
Oh, I meant the scope. I know we can adjust the fee, but can we adjust the scope of what's involved in awarding the TCO so that it doesn't take so much staff time and cost so much money?
That I'd have to explore with my staff.
Okay.
Well, that's what I was saying, thinking is that, you know, the suggestion is that maybe we take a look at this and have a counselor appointed option to maybe look at this. I think these are valid points that have been brought up by the developers who were willing to speak to us tonight and clarify the concerns with this, and I think it's worth exploring some more.
I guess I have a few questions too. So if I could walk through this, I'm trying to look at it from, I'm in a multi-tenant building. It's only 2 tenants in the Coos Bay Village. So Greg, you might be able to help me walk through this as well. When you get a permit for the shell of the building, they final out the permit for the shell, which then allows for tenants to do their tenant improvements. Is that correct?
I believe so. Is it? No?
No.
This
So
might-
when you get a shell built, the permits are not finalized for that particular portion of the building permit.
It's a developer option with the shell tenant. They can sometimes it's 2 different developers.
Yeah.
So the developer can build the shell, final that permit, and then a tenant comes in and does their tenant improvement, separate permit, they get occupancy. Coos Bay Village has done it concurrently, where they are operating the shell permits and the tenant improvement permits concurrently, and so there's
Sorry, Amy. I keep forgetting, we can hear you, but then Greg and
Yeah, sorry.
the ones online cannot.
So again, it's an option. So, and that's where it gets really sort of challenging to manage the shell tenant improvement piece. It's not like we're just building the building and occupying it all at once. So we're doing the shell, not knowing what the tenant's going to be. And so do we finish the shell and it's safe, complete to the scope of work that was permitted, and then a tenant comes in and builds it out to however they want and they occupy it? When they happen concurrently, where we have an open shell permit and an open tenant improvement permit, we cannot grant occupancy until the shell is complete. And so when we have a case where we have multiple tenants, we may have all of the focus in completing tenant number 1, and the shell is still progressing.
The shell's still
And
open.
so we're looking for, can we get safe occupancy in the first one while we are still, and there are times, and this is where it gets challenging, and I support this idea of us getting together and talking about it, where there are times where there may be something that happens in subsequent work that impacts what we still have open. And so we are having to balance all of those multiple permits of shell, tenant, which is which.
Okay. So from a health and life safety standpoint, if the shell is built and you have your quote-unquote warm shell, and then the tenant comes in and does all of their tenant improvements to the extent of the specialty code that is required with egress and signage and firewall separation between tenancies, fire suppression, whatever it might be for that specific unit, it seems like that almost creates its own shell in my head. So, like for Greg, you might know this, but like, I can't remember if our occupancy was finished before the other tenant in our building. But it seems like the firewall separation between our side and the other tenant's side would satisfy life and health safety guidelines for that particular footprint of the building. But it sounds like just because there's a larger permit open, it's deemed not as safe? Because I guess I don't quite get that. Like, you're in this space, it's firewall separated, it's, it's got its fire extinguishers and fire suppression systems, and egress is all accounted for. So it seems like that particular space should be good to go. And regardless of what's happening on the other side of the wall, it seems like that is already safe. Does that make sense to anybody?
Yeah, well, it does. And I think Amy reference that, and that this gets complex. But in your case, I think BBSI was already completed. So if I'm wrong, Greg, you can tell me, but I'm guessing, under this scenario, Greg was paying a fee because yours wasn't completed.
Because I wasn't completed. Is that correct,
Even
Greg?
though it did meet, there's, I don't believe they could allow BBSI to go in there unless it was meeting life and safety issues. So they were up to code, but yours was not.
So I was
And
the
under
one
that
holding it
scenario,
up.
the way this was rolled out, yeah, you were just studs, and you were, yeah.
Yeah, I was.
So if it took you a little bit of time to go get the wood from Marshfield High School flooring and stuff, that was probably costing Greg another month or two, so, in
Great.
fee. I'm kidding, but anyway,
Sorry,
that's
Greg.
pretty much it.
And Carmen, you bring up a good example because you did your own TI. So that would mean the owner of the building is on the hook for paying that TCO when really we have no input on the speed of how a tenant does a TI, if that's what is the qualifying factor for signing that off. So yeah, it's every tenant, at Coos Bay Village, I think there's very few buildings where all the tenants came in at the same time. That would make everybody's job pretty easy. But we're at the mercy of signing up leases, and we get them going through the process and through the system as quickly as we can. But there's going to be some overlap, and nobody's in the business to build buildings that don't have tenants in them, and we're all trying as hard as we can to get tenants in and get them built out. So yeah, it seems like there's a rigidity to the law and the code that maybe does not apply as neatly to multi-tenant buildings, and I think that's what we're all kind of seeing, and maybe we can come up with a solution on what might work a little bit better.
Other questions? So we have a recommendation by Jim that, and I'm not sure how the recommendation came, but anyway, it's recommending that a couple councilors be involved with staff to maybe look at this. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, just from tonight, we can see there are several different aspects to kind of puzzle out to see where the best place to maybe land.
So unless staff really opposes, I think it would be advantageous and educational if we brought in a couple developers if they wished to participate in this process. It's like I said, and I just want to reference Heidi again, it's not to beat up on the staff, it's try to find a way, as Amy had stated, that maybe we can find some balance that would be beneficial to everyone. So I'm going to put a couple people on the spot. Heidi, would you be interested in serving on this committee? And how about you, Greg? Is that it?
Absolutely.
Okay. So are we all right with that? And Carmen, I think you were interested, and I know that Troy was interested, and I could sit on there. I'm not hoping to get three of them in there, but anyway, so there'd be the three counselors, if everyone agrees with that. And at least two developers, and maybe we can bring another one down the road, just to try to, get the information out and find a resolve. So is everyone all right with that?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a fair
Great plan.
compromise to find, yeah.
I think we're always trying to see what we can do to streamline the process for developers. We see how important that is in moving the city forward, so I think it's a great idea.
So, and Carmen just reminded me that, are we going to do something about the existing fee? Can we put a moratorium on it, or can we reduce the fee until we get this hammered out? Because this might be another 3-4 months, and I know this is impacting some people. And I agree that there might be where one should be charged, maybe the other should not. So can we lower the fee or put a moratorium on it or put a minimal fee on it to keep the permit open? Because I understand that's important.
I think as we've stated before, the fee is a council decision. I think initially where we stand right now, we may believe from a staff level that that's an appropriate fee. It's been in place for a while. It's until recently, it's been working. So I think it might be a challenge with ones in play already that maybe need that fee as encouragement, and then there's others who don't. So again, this is going to land on you guys. What is your preference for a fee?
Well, I would suggest
midstream is challenging.
Yeah,
to
I mean, I
alter.
would suggest a moratorium or a minimal fee of, I don't know, $1, 10, 15, 20, 50, I don't know, but,
How about, I'd like to propose somewhere in the middle,
okay.
maybe for the moment, one time, it's not a 30-day fee. You pay at one time the temporary occupancy until we figure out which way we go from there. So you pay the $288
That's a great suggestion.
one time, and then that puts us in a place where we know you have temporary occupancy. But I would say that, let's say a year goes by and you still have temporary occupancy. I mean, this would be something we talk about later maybe, but you won't get another business permit if you're still on temporary occupancy, something like that. So I would recommend that there's still a singular fee, but maybe not.
And I think we
every
need,
month.
I think we need to take a little bit further to help staff. Greg suggested that maybe some kind of documentation be submitted stating where they're at in the process. Isn't that what you stated, Greg?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think because that way staff knows that this is continuing on, that you have something that shows that it's proceeding on. So I don't know if you want to do it every month or every quarter or however you want to do that.
For clarification, do we have some issues where we need to have a fee in more regularly than what we
That I
have?
don't know. I don't know if there's anybody who can speak to if we have
Well, I think it's
work in
going to determine
progress.
what, it depends on the issue, it depends on the development. I mean, I think, as Amy stated, it depends if it's whatever's happening. There's different circumstances that would apply.
Mhm. I just have concern on saying one time for 1 year. Like, I think we want to encourage something a little bit differently than that. I don't know that, a 30-day fee is appropriate. Maybe we're looking at, so
let's do this.
like a 90-day, can
So
we
let's
say,
do
and then
this.
you come and talk
Let's-
to us again or
let's,
something,
Let's see if we can compromise. Let's do the fee for 6 months. Hopefully by then, this committee has come together and has a discussion and maybe has a suggestion on how to move forward. How about that?
It's slightly better. It does motivate us to get you guys to the table a little bit quicker.
Good.
And come to
that's good.
conclusion.
We need motivating sometimes.
I got a
See, I was going to
question.
suggest
Sorry.
quarterly, but I don't know how that fits into,
Well, go ahead.
which still
It's 90.
encourages us to.
I just think that we need, this fee for me just doesn't seem fair. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, in some circumstances, from what Amy said, I see it. But in other circumstances, I just don't get it. I mean, like with Carmen, or like with what Greg suggested, the building between Harry Ritchie's and whatever. The staff is not going down there and doing anything. There is no cost, minimal cost maybe, to the staff. So that fee is not applicable, or doesn't make any sense to me. So that's where I'm having problems even quarterly.
So I think this is a good opportunity for us to give you enough information so that it does make sense.
Yes.
Yeah,
But that's
because I
why-
think there is some elements to that I
Yep.
don't think we have time to really
Right.
delve in and
That's
get
why
to
we're gonna have
here.
the committee.
Yeah.
All right.
So.
So, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I had contacted Nicole, and I know, Amy, you had been involved with the building on Anderson that was previously housed Daryl's Devil's Food.
Yes.
And it is some major blight in our downtown core, and it seems like there's not a lot of movement from the developer in that property. And so is that an example of where this fee is really important to encourage progress?
I don't think in this instance that's.
This will relate to your American building question also. So the big difference here is which code we're talking about. So the building code regulates new construction. So new construction is regulated under the Oregon Structural Specialty Code, and when we have an open permit, that's what triggers that certificate of occupancy process. Once the building is built, then it becomes a maintenance issue, and that's where the fire code takes over. So we are working a fire code enforcement issue with the Fletcher building and the issues there. And so they're very different processes in which code has authority.
I would imagine it has to do with the fact that there's already occupancy that's been granted in that building, and so there's been no change to occupancy.
Correct, that is a component, and then
Yeah.
that's also a part of the conversation around the temporary versus permanent certificate of occupancy is once we grant occupancy, and worst case scenario, if things don't get finished, things don't move forward, it is incredibly difficult. That's where Nate and I get to have lots of conversations about how to remove people from a building once they're in it. So we take occupancy very seriously. Once we let people in, it's very difficult to get them out.
Absolutely. That totally makes sense.
So I'm going to make a recommendation that we appoint Carmen and Troy and myself, along with Heidi and Greg on this committee, and that we go 6 months without, the $280 that's been paid in December is good for 6 months, and then we can come back and revisit it sooner if we got this resolved. Does that sound all right?
It sounds fine to me, but I'm feeling a little bit of pushback here, so.
Well, I'm just wondering what staff has to do each month for the TCO that is going to incur expense for the city so that we're not running that upside down. And then by extension of that is, if we have discretion whether or not we're going to award a TCO and the state doesn't have a lot of say in it, can we award it and then say, staff, don't spend your time on it for 6 months so that we don't incur expense while we also don't generate revenue?
Well,
But the
isn't that what this committee is going to determine?
Yes.
And I'm thinking today, though.
But the expense, though,
that's
Drew,
very
depends
lengthy.
on the situation, as Amy stated.
Yeah.
It depends if it's going to be a shell, or the antenna's going to be an improvement, or it's going to be like the situation with Coos Bay Village. So it depends on what you're talking about, what cost is going to be associated with that with staff.
Yeah, well, I was thinking just stop having staff spend time on it and we won't have expense.
Well, but I think, on some of it, I don't think they are. On others, they probably are. So
Yeah.
I think that's the balance.
Well, and I hesitate to do a blanket
Yeah.
removal of it.
Agreed.
It's there for a reason, and I think probably our staff would be concerned about just removing that as well.
But
But do we just need consensus on this?
No, I'm
or-
gonna make a motion, okay? Then we'll do that. So I have a right to make a motion, so I'm gonna make a motion that we appoint Troy Cribbins, Carmen Matthews, myself, Greg Drobot, Heidi Sauce to this committee to meet with the staff, and that we suspend the costs of the TCO for 6 months. And what's been allocated, $288 or whatever it may be, is good for 6 months, and then if necessary, we can come back and reinstitute a fee sooner if that happens. Do I have a second?
I'll second for purposes of discussion.
Okay.
I am concerned with removing the fee with the motion.
Can I clarify, though, you were not saying to remove the fee, you were saying a payment of one time for 6 months?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So that needs to be stated differently than in the motion.
No, that's what I said.
I thought you said remove.
No, I said that we allocate it's been, they already paid the fee for December, so it's good for 6 months. That's
Or
what I said.
sometimes call it a friendly amendment,
So it's-
sponsored by Sarah on that one.
Okay, but that's what I stated. So she asked it for clarification, so be it, okay? I guess we can make an amendment if you wish. Then I need it, first of all, we need,
Can we just hear the motion back?
Is that for me to read back to you?
I'll read it, I'll do it again, so.
I mean, I'm happy to.
I'll make a motion, you want to do it?
Either way, I'm happy to.
I'll make a motion, I'll restate the motion, that Troy Cribbins, Counselor Matthews, myself, Greg Drobot, and Heidi Sauce work with staff on this committee for the TCOs, and that the fee that has been paid for December is good for 6 months, and that's it. I'll stop there.
And then I will second.
Okay?
Would new things have to pay once as well and then continue on? So that the moratorium doesn't cover people that haven't applied yet?
I don't think we're placing a moratorium. I think we're
Okay.
establishing that we're paying a single fee for a
Cool.
6-month period of time.
Awesome.
That's my understanding.
So
Good.
those are existing permits that have paid the fee in December already,
And if someone new
would only
comes
be
in,
affected by this.
if someone new comes in, then the fee's good through that period of time.
I'd like to just clarify that I am very cognizant of the role of fees, and that our permit department really does operate at a deficit, even with our current fee structure. So I don't take this lightly to like put hold on a fee structure, because I think that it is extremely important for the function and for the financial stability of our departments and the city in general. So I'd like to get working on this as soon as possible, and it's not my intent to drag this out and leave fees,
No, I agree.
off the
And-
table. So.
No, I agree, and I just think that it needs to be a fair fee, that's all I'm looking
Yeah,
at, and
and-
that's all we're talking about, and I think even the staff has referenced that, there's, so, anyway, it'd be good to get this together and talk about it, so.
So the idea then is that this can be, this can come back to the council probably sooner rather than 6 months.
I think this can come back to the council at any time, any counselor can ask it to be brought back to the agenda.
Well, no, I mean, we want the
But- Yeah, but I know,
information
I mean,
completed,
if
yeah.
we can get this done sooner, sure, I think it'd be great.
As it stands now, if we can meet, the next meeting would be January 2nd, depending on what our timeline is for this group to get together and have a discussion. It's
Okay.
very possible.
All right.
We can work towards the January 2nd back to council for a final decision.
Boy, that's fast.
That's
Well,
really
you're
fast,
really-
Nicole.
Set the expectation.
With the
of
holidays and everything,
absolutely
you are
every
really
confidence.
optimistic. All right, any other comments?
Well, I know I've expressed my desire to be a part of this conversation, but I'd like to just see if any of the other counselors are interested in jumping on this.
All you, Carmen.
I'm
And Joe.
interested, but I think you can manage it and bring it back. It's gonna come back to us, so we'll
Yeah,
have the full
we'll all
view.
be
Yeah.
part of the conversation.
Yeah.
You heard how she said you, Carmen, not myself. All right. All right. That being said, I'm calling for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Thank you so much, staff, Heidi and Greg both, and all the interaction with the council. Thank you so much. All right, next item on the agenda is, get the river and get there, did you?
Yeah, I was questioning. It's the first time we've had two
Fine.
meetings, and yeah, so. Okay, so I'll try to be somewhat quick here. Just a reminder that we're going to be meeting on the Kabam, the Coosberry Estuary Management Plan Thursday. That's this Thursday, the 7th at 6 p.m. That's a joint work session again with all three bodies. That's Coos Bay, North Bend, and Coos County. That will come back to you as a action item in January, depending on how this work session goes. But
And the
that's
work session
current
could be
plan.
virtual also.
And you may attend virtually, yes. We have continued work on the Empire Blueprint. It's my understanding we have another meeting on the 12th, so that work is continuing. We did have some follow-up just to share. There was a question about the trees on commercial that came up during Parks Commission interviews. Those have been reviewed and replaced. That was a correct assessment. And we've talked about that a little bit today in our division head meeting. So I just want to follow back up with you that the question came up, we looked at it, resolved. Front Street parking lot remediation is done as far as the soil removal there. Of course, we still have the whole full rest of the project to finish up, but that's finished. And then a reminder that the Economic Outlook Forum is on Friday, bright and early in the morning. If there are those who didn't say they wanted to attend and you would wish to attend, there's still an opportunity. We can, pay for that afterwards. So that's what I got.
Yeah, and I won't be able to be there, so someone can definitely take my seat, and I hope they do. That's not virtual, that one.
I believe I'm going, right? Okay.
All right. Anything else?
That was it.
Okay, council comments. We don't have anyone on the screen. Drew?
Yeah, so for our upcoming estuary meeting, just a fun fact for folks, if you put the 600-page packet into Speechify and speed it up 40%, it's only 11 hours.
Oh, wow.
Not counting the 1,000-page document.
So I guess, I'm going to ask the council, everyone's read it, right? Okay.
I got through most of it so far, 1,000 pages still. And then we're at that time of year again, so Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Yule, whatever folks do. Enjoy yourselves. That's all I got.
All right, thanks. Carmen?
Gosh, I really don't have much. Lots of rain and high tides out there, so be safe, be aware of what's happening on the roads, and everybody have a safe week. That's all I have.
Stephanie?
Well, I just wanted to say, they just left, congratulations to John Eck for a long, wonderful career with the city in a variety of capacities. I'm not sure who I'm going to call when I need cones now. We always need lots of cones at Bus Jam, so I'll transition right into that and just let everyone know that that was the collection effort for the toy and food drive stuff in the buses was this last weekend. And that is an event that has been going on for 22 years, and most recently the Bikes for Tykes that started at one of our Coos Bay businesses also 22 years ago, joined forces about 5 years ago with that event, and it was wonderful. Our fire department helped escort and get them safely to North Bend and then to Coos Bay, where they dropped off 140 bicycles and in all about $35,000 worth of toys and bikes that will make an impact this weekend when that is distributed to Coos County families. There is collections that are still going on at the Bi-Mart stores, and Northwest Community or Credit Union on 101 near the Pancake Mill is still collecting as well. And as of Saturday morning, there were 1,248 children registered for the distribution this week. So that is a record, and I have not gotten any updated totals. I'm sure it's probably well north of that now, since the event was held. A lot of need in our community, but a lot of support as well from folks who came out and donated, and we appreciate that very much. That's a Coos Bay North Bend Rotary Club, Bikes for Tykes, and the Bicoastal Media radio stations put that event on this year, and Rotary will be doing the distribution Saturday and bringing a lot of merriment to families. So thank you to the community. That's all I have.
Thanks, Stephanie. Sarah?
Nothing from me, thank you.
So a couple things. First of all, I'll ask staff, the Christmas tree downtown is leaning because of the wind. Are we going to lean a leaning tower of tree like Pisa, or are we going to fix it, or what? Any
So-
concern for safety?
I think we looked at it today and identified, and I don't know if anyone wants to speak to that, but we did. Councilor Matthews called and gave us kind of a heads up.
Who
We
did?
do. Councilor
I've been on the
Matthews.
phone a lot today.
But we also do have staff who drive by that
I'm sure.
on their way to work, just to make sure that it's performing as we would wish. So I think we identified that it is still safe in the current.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay,
It does have a pitch in it, but we're good.
that's fine. Pisa's been that way for a while. I'm sure the tree will last a month. It'll be a unique attraction. All right.
Yeah, so we did check it out. We could do something to right-side it, but with the weather right now, like what we would need to do
Sure.
is a little bit unsafe. So
Okay.
we're gonna watch it, and if need be, then when the weather hopefully settles a little bit, we can do something.
Okay. The other thing I want to mention is that Sarah, Councilor Stevens, is going to Japan, and she's going to be representing the city of Coos Bay with our sister city, Choshi. So we haven't connected with them for quite a while, so I'm pleased that she's going to do that, and I'm looking forward to getting back and get a report. So enjoy your time over there. You got some business cards, and you have, it's...
One side is in Japanese.
Correct.
Oh,
So-
very cool.
Appreciate you taking time out of your vacation for it. Just make sure people understand the city's not paying for that. You're welcome. And talking about Christmas trees, so there were 2 tree lightings. We had one downtown the day after Thanksgiving. I had a great crowd show up, and I had some individuals, small individuals that helped me light the tree, which was wonderful. We also had another one, that Santa showed up in a classic car. And then we had the Empire tree lighting, and that Santa showed up in a fire truck. And so we had good attendance on both, and it was fun to do.
And so, anyway, I also, myself, I enjoyed attending the LTOB Christmas Opry with Carmen, Annie, and Dorian, and, which is Carmen and Annie's daughter, and a friend of Dorian's. And it was a great presentation, and it was fun to see. The show ran all weekend, and I heard it sold out, so that's wonderful. I also want to wish everyone happy holidays with their family and friends this year, and I want to take this time because we're going to go into a new year before we come back, and I want to thank that I am honored to serve with a wonderful council and city staff, and so happy from 2023, look forward to 2024. Anyway, so happy new year to everyone else. And I will adjourn the city council meeting, but we have an urban renewal meeting that will come back into session, and I'll let Councilor Kilmer run that one. So thank you for everyone for your presentation or participation, I should say. Thank you.
We'll take a couple minutes to reset for the meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency.
That's it.